Luxury hotels galore, with the Grand Hotel built in the Italian manner in 1864, the Metropole built in 1866 in brilliant red stone, and almost directly opposite is the West Pier, built in the same year, attracting seekers of quietude, but at the same time offering all the sparkle and gaiety of the numerous pier attractions, and a little further along, the famous Bedford Hotel.
Because it's a bit wacky, it's a bit out of the ordinary. And I think people expect that of places like Brighton. You know, it's not suburbia with privet hedges and closed doors in their curtains. It's far more accepting than a lot of other places around the country.
For the way you misbehave. First time I swallow.
Dr. Johnson famously said, when you're tired of London, you're tired of life. In 1780, and you could say that about Brighton. When you're tired of Brighton, you're tired of life.
Brighton, home of the weird, wacky and accepting. We all know about it, but I wanted to dig up and find out what it's really like. I first spoke to Sarah from the Brighton Open Market and asked her questions about her business and how it fits into the Brighton lifestyle.
Brighton is a very vivacious, exciting city, and what we sell here, what we try and do is kind of reflect that. It's a very sort of unique place, and we like to think that what we are doing is unique as well. So, well, if you have a look around the shop, we've just got lots of weird and wonderful things. We do lots of taxidermy, lots of fairground memorabilia, things that are very bright, and people in Brighton like unusual stuff. You know, they don't like the run of the mill. So we embrace that here.
Further down, I went to Beyond Retro, a vintage market in Brighton, where I struck up a conversation with two young Brightonians.
I think that when you're walking down the streets, like in the lanes especially, you see like so many different eras. I think one big thing is fashion. Do you reckon? Like all of these shops, like Beyond Retro and everything, like you're seeing like mods, rockers, like hippies with long hair and everything like that from all the different eras of the like 19s, like all the 70s, everything like that. I think that adds a level of diversity that no other city has.
It's also like the social culture. Like anything goes in Brighton.
Yeah, definitely.
No need to be lost in Brighton. Whys and wherefores are always readily answered by a smart set of young ladies promenading up and down the seafront, namely the Promettes. But what about entertainment? You just cannot be dull in Brighton, not with 3 theatres, 14 cinemas, 4 ballrooms, 2 piers, the aquarium and the ice rink. The 3 live theatres and the ice rink cater for every taste, from gay musicals and spectacles to comedies, drama and variety.
We've had a lot of positives about Brighton, and no one seems to have a damn bad thing to say about it. I want to go deeper, so I made my way down to the council building to talk to someone who might have something else to say about it. You're Director of Public Health. That's quite a title. So what comes with this title? What does your job involve?
Well, Director of Public Health involve looking after the public health of the population, and that covers a number of things. The areas we tend to focus on are things like inequalities in health, sexual health, alcohol, smoking, exercise, mental well-being, children's health, and in this area, in Brighton Hove, We also do a little bit more. It varies from where you are. We do community safety, so all the antisocial behaviour stuff, we manage that, and all the environmental health teams, so all the food safety, emergency planning, regulatory services fall under public health here in Brighton Health.
Do you think everyone here is as happy as Brighton's reputation makes it out to be?
Well, that's a funny old thing. We did a report a few years ago on happiness and measuring happiness, because happiness is very much linked to life expectancy, to well-being, to disease resistance. There's a good body of evidence for that. So we were measuring happiness across the city. And Brighton and Hove doesn't score as happy as you think it might.
In 2009, there was an average of almost one drug-related death in every week, which made Brighton the drug death capital of the UK, highest mortality rate from the drugs per capita. Has this drug use declined, or has it stayed at a high level since 2009?
It's come down. So we
drastically, or was it
considerably? No, we've got just over. At its peak, we were having over 60 deaths a year from drug deaths, and now we're down to just over 20. So it's come down by about 2/3. It's still a lot, but it has come down.
From what I've searched up and researched up online, there's been a lot of problems with student accommodation. The fact that there's so many of them, that they've risen from 24,000 to roughly 35. Yeah. Would you say that's another issue?
That's definitely an issue, and that's something we work. So we've got a closer relationship with two universities in town, Sussex and Brighton, and Brighton College, and where we get a big student body, we try and develop a good relationship with them, because we need them in a sense to build accommodation. We need to help them build accommodation to help students have somewhere to live. It is a serious issue for us if we're constantly bringing more students, and their plans are to bring more students into town. So we've got to look at that. We've got to have more on-campus accommodation and off-campus accommodation that's bespoke and built purposely for students.
So, Living Rent, what's Living Rent about?
Well, we're a small campaign group. We're campaigning for a change in the law so that there's some regulation of the private rented sector, because it's just got completely out of control. And so what we'd like to see is a return to regulated rents, fair rents, so that are set with some relationship to what people can afford, so some relationship to average incomes. What we'd like, first of all, is for the government to set up a living rent commission, which would look into the different situations in different places and would recommend a rent level that was a fair rent for each place, and that could then be written into legislation and say no one was allowed to charge more than that for a certain size of property or whatever. And we think that's a very reasonable demand. We had regulated rents in the UK, not within living memory, before 1988 Housing Act, 88, 87, I don't remember. There were fair rents. There was an officer in every council who would inspect private rented properties to see if they were up to standard, and who would assess the property and say how much could be charged for it. And some people who've still lived in their houses since before that time are still paying a regulated rent. It's perfectly doable. They do it in Germany, they do it in lots of other countries around the world. There's just some kind of control over the market, because as it stands, we've got this unregulated free market and people can charge whatever they like.
After our insightful interview with the Living Rent, I decided to contact two students with first-hand experience of the issue and see what their opinions were. So we heard that your accommodation has been boosted up by quite a bit each week due to our work outside your housing. Has that affected you guys in any way? or has it had a bad effect on you guys?
Well, luckily I don't think it's had a bad effect on any of us really, because none of us were planning to live here another year. Maybe a few of us, but we'd have to get more people, but you know, it was kind of decided that most of us were going to move out anyway. But yeah, it was a shame. I just kind of feel sorry for the next people, because you know, it might look really cool with the, you know, the art outside, and oh look how cool your house is, and it's a good size, but there's still mould, you know, there's still, you know, not double glazing on some of the windows, it's cold, like, it is, you know, it's not in the best shape, and so it's just, I guess it's just kind of sad that landlords can get away with charging so much when it doesn't reflect the quality of the house, but people will buy it because they have to, I guess.
Did they notify you in any way about the rent rising, or did you find out as soon as you got in and moved in?
When we put the deposit down on the house, we didn't know anything about the paint. I did find out later on about the paint, and I was quite excited because I actually quite liked the art that's in the front of the house. But what we didn't know about is the rent, and that did go up. And one of the previous housemates actually were quite surprised by that and had to fight it to get it back down. But it still overall went up by a few quid a week.
It went from, I think the original price that drew us in was £433 a month, and then it went up to more than what we were paying, but the previous housemates managed to knock some money off, so now we're paying £463, so that's like, you know, an extra 30 quid, and it was going to be even more than that, and now they've put it up even more. And yeah, since then they haven't changed anything else other than the outside of the house.
Would you say it's fair?
I wouldn't say it's fair, and it's definitely not fair on the next people that are going to be moving in here. Like, Brighton is known for being very artistic, and they are capitalising on that completely.
And private tenants are over a barrel. So in Brighton, the rent for a 3-bedroom or 2-bedroom place is over £800 a month, and it's gone up in the last year by 18%. And it's just ridiculous. People are finding that they can't afford to stay in places, they're having to move every 6 months, they're spending more than half of their income on rent. And it's very damaging for society.
Obviously the homeless situation in Brighton is quite a big deal, and there's a lot of things where, you know, people trying to do stuff for themselves, and obviously, you know, when you see people in the streets helping them and stuff like that. But that to me I think is a problem. There seems to be a lot of that happening in Brighton, and especially like days like today and this time of the year, I wouldn't want them to be doing that. So that is one of the problems I see in Brighton, and that's a situation where you can't just change that overnight.